Welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Allison, and we're here to talk to you about the real ups and downs of being in the real estate business.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it. Hey y'all, welcome to the Call Before Showing podcast. This is Allison McPherson, and today I am here with my beautiful co-host, Alex Eldridge. And we are also joined by a very special guest in Richmond, Virginia, Jessica Deleo. She is awesome, and we absolutely love her, and we are going to learn so much from her today. I guess probably the first place to start is tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate.
Sure. So I'm Jessica Deleo. I'm an agent in Richmond. I am 30 years old. So this is my third full year of real estate. And before I was in real estate, I did marketing. So my undergraduate degree is actually from VCU, and it is in art design. So in advertising, but like the creative side of things. And then I got a job in that and didn't love it. So I went back to get my graduate degree, also from VCU. And I got an MBA from the VCU Brand Center in more of a strategic role in brand management. And from there, I've done a couple different jobs. I was an account manager in an ad agency. I've been the Virginia marketing director for a larger jewelry company. I have freelanced and worked for myself. And then I sort of fell into real estate in a marketing role, but then flipped over to the sales side. So I've kind of done marketing all the way through and now have transitioned into what I love, which is real estate.
So you were doing marketing for a broker?
So I did do marketing for a broker for a little while. Basically, my agent who sold my husband and I our house when we bought it said, yeah, I'm just so bad at marketing. And my husband was like, my wife is looking to get out of her job and you need help and she's good at that. So why don't you guys do that together? And I was familiar with homes and real estate from my dad building houses when I was a kid. I was used to being on construction sites. So I was like, sure, that sounds interesting. So she said, great, if you get your real estate license, you can come help me do marketing. I'll bring you on as a partner, which was sort of the plan. And then I think she wasn't, once I actually did it, she was like, oh shoot, you actually did that. So I don't think she was fully prepared for me to do it. You know, you get to that spot in your business where you're like, I'm so busy and I really could use help, but I'm so busy they don't have time to train somebody else. And so she really didn't have time to train me. So it was kind of like, we can do stuff sometimes together, but you really are on your own. A friend of mine, her brother actually happened to have just gotten into real estate. He brought me over to work for a renovation company that he was working with. So I changed my license to a new broker. I did marketing for the renovation company and did sales. Then I changed and did marketing for a broker for them and did no sales. And then I came back to just be an agent because I was like, I just like my free time and I like managing my own time. So I came back to just sort of run my own business at the original second brokerage that I was at.
How are you liking that in comparison to everything else you've done?
I love it the most. You know, you get so many opportunities for sales jobs right out of college and you're like, oh no, that's not my personality. I could never do that. But I've found that I really love sales because I like working with people and I feel like I can dictate how I sell. So I don't have to be overly salesy. It can be whatever my style is. So I've liked that, and building your own business, which is really what real estate is you owning your own business, allows me to do sort of that marketing creative part. So I sort of get the best of both worlds. So I really love it compared to building other people's businesses, which I thought I really wanted to do. And then I got to a point where I was like, why am I spending so much time and effort doing this for other people so they can make lots of money when I could do it for myself and make lots of money? So that's where I am. So yeah, I love it.
I love that you said that. I feel like sales can sometimes be like a dirty word.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times people hear the word sales and they think like an annoying telemarketer or door knocker. You know, the guy standing at a kiosk at the mall, or even worse, a used car salesman.
Like door-to-door knife sales. That's like
They make a shit ton of money off of real estate agents, though.
Those knife sales people?
Yeah.
They do because they're good gifts.
Yeah, gosh.
If you think about it as relationship building, because anyone that's really good at it is just handling it as relationship building.
And I think that's why I've found that I like it, is because it's more about establishing and building relationships with people. For me, for some agents, it's not. It's definitely about sales funnels and hitting numbers and doing other things. But I like to think of it as like me being supportive and building relationships with people who need someone who's a specialist in a particular area of their life at that moment. Same with having a wedding planner. I mean, Allison was in the wedding industry too. Being a real estate agent, I feel like is sort of like being a wedding planner. There's this very specific moment in someone's life that they really need an expert for. I think that real estate agents sort of get to step in and build a relationship with you and help you kind of through that milestone. in your life, which is really nice. And if you're good at it, then you keep them.
Well, and that was for me when I was in the wedding industry. That was like a part that I was like, oh, but I just like love you so much. And we're done here. Like, we're done. Like hopefully you don't have to get married again. But that's like the only, I was so sad whenever I lost people because it was like they got married and they didn't need me anymore, Yeah. So
it's like you're a high school teacher and your kids have graduated and now you're like, okay, well, see you later.
Yeah, like what do I do now?
Yeah, I guess I move on. And
I feel like it can sometimes be awkward at the end of a transaction when you really like vibed with someone so well. It almost feels like you like someone that you want to date.
Yes.
But you know they're going to ghost you because they don't need you anymore.
Yeah, but you're like, hi, so this is weird, but would you like to be friends later? Yeah, I feel like that's exactly what it's like. And I sort of have that awkward conversations with clients where I'm like, hi, so yeah, I really liked working with you. Do you want to get wine? And they're like, oh, sure, great. Usually. Sometimes they're like, no, I don't. But
I guess my biggest fear is trying to have that conversation with them and them thinking that I'm just like bugging them for more business.
See, but I don't think people think that. Like, I don't think people think, maybe they do. I don't know. But
I think if you had like a genuine connection with somebody, I don't feel like they think that. People who are like not feeling you and you probably didn't feel it either, then maybe. But I think if you had a true connection with them, they're probably like, sure, yeah, let's hang.
Since you started kind of in like the marketing world, obviously your marketing is impressive. Like everything on your social media and your website and all of that. Would you say that like online sources are your biggest source of lead generation, or what would you say that is in your business?
So I am not, based on the I don't love sales thing, from being a salesy person, I definitely use my online presence to sort of pre-build connections with people. So I would say like my Instagram is a big lead generator for me. And then also my sphere is a big generator for me. And once I've captured people into my sphere, it's usually easier for me to get referrals. I like working off of referrals more. I was on a team for a little while and tried doing like Zillow and cold leads. And I just personally have a hard time converting them because there's nothing for us to connect on other than there's this one house you wanted to see. So I usually would say, yeah, online, specifically Instagram resources.
And would you say on Instagram, it's local people that are finding you, or is it other agents that are then referring people to you?
So I've had both happen. I've had clients from out of state say, hey, could you help us? We're moving there. I've had other agents say, hey, I want to kick you a referral because I see your social media presence. And then I've had locals say, hey, I've been following you for a while and, we're starting to look for a house. We just graduated. We just got married. We're whatever, another entrepreneur, and we've been following you and are ready to buy. So I've sort of had a mix of all of them.
Okay. That's so cool.
How soon after you started your Instagram and social media business accounts did you start getting leads?
That's sort of a tricky question because I started my Instagram profile as soon as I became an agent, but I sort of had, like I said in the beginning, split my time so much between the different marketing roles that I was in that I didn't really focus on it as much. But once I started using it as a true tool to build my business, I think I got my first Instagram lead probably 6 months in. Maybe before that. It might have been more like 4 months in. But definitely 6 months in, I had gotten some Instagram leads and traffic and people who have reached out to me on my website or via the DM on Instagram.
Do you do do you do any paid advertising on Instagram?
I just started doing paid advertising on Instagram. It is too early for me to tell if it is beneficial or not. I'm actually going to do some videos in August and sort of use those. And I think those are a little more captivating. I think they play better in stories and in the feed because they're something to stop and look at, and they don't look as much like an ad because I think now people are getting used to what looks like organic content actually being an ad, so it can be ignored a little bit more.
Yes, we'll have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Who does the photography for your content, or is that something that you do yourself?
I do it myself. Yeah, I do most of it myself. So I do spend money on a styled shoot once a year. And I say that like I did it last year and then I'm doing it again this year. So it will be twice. So it's not like that's a core of my business. But I've found that like sometimes taking selfies is like a little bit too in your personal space. And I know people are getting away from having the overly styled photos. But I think some lifestyle photography is really helpful. So a lender that I use often, she had a friend who did ours last year. And then this year, the photographer who shot my wedding is actually going to do my styled shoot. And then like other agents in my office work for a builder, and they're going to let us use one of their model homes. So it'll just be a little mix of a bunch of people. But yeah.
Awesome. I love that.
And do you use those pictures throughout the year?
I do. So I try to go in like more of a neutral, even though we're going to be doing them in summer. I don't usually wear like all shorts outfits or all sleeveless tops. I try to get outfits that are a little more like jeans and a t-shirt, or, jeans and a sweater, so that I can use them throughout the year. And I change outfits a couple times, or we shoot them different places. This year I'm really focused on getting specific photos that are going to match some of the blog content that I'm going to be putting up later in the year, so that I have imagery for the blog that goes with that. Because right now all the imagery on the blog is from me and my cell phone.
That's awesome.
So tell us a little bit about your rookie year.
My rookie year was, I feel like, the epitome of all rookie years. Just all the things happened. My aunt was very, very kind and was my very first deal. She was my first 2 deals, actually. I bought a condo, which is, if anyone's ever bought a condo, I feel like they have way more rules, and they're like one of the hardest things to buy. So why that was my first one, I have no idea. There are so many things that I was like, oh shoot, if I was buying your condo with you 3 years later, here are all the different things we would have been doing. And she laughed. We actually talked about it at breakfast the other day, and she laughed about it. And I just remember the first time I took her to see a property, I'd never really worked a lockbox before. I'd never really been in a condo building before. So you have to like type the code in to get into the condo, and then the property number. You also have to look for like the actual door number, and then the door numbers coordinate to what floor you're supposed to be on. And I didn't realize I was supposed to be on the 2nd floor. I was just in this very confusing condo building and couldn't find the box. And she just looks at me and goes, "Good thing I'm your first one, because this would be quite embarrassing if you were with people you didn't know." And I said, "Yes, I think you're right." Yeah. So she was like, "I think we're supposed to be on the 2nd floor." So we went, and, whatever, we worked all these things out, all the little kinks of, opening the lockbox and doing stuff. So she was really kind. And then she was also my first sale, which was a complete bomb. Her house was in a really good spot in Richmond, but in a really good area, I should say. The actual location of her lot, I think, was a little more difficult because it was right next to a commercial space, a doctor's office. And I took the advice of my broker and a couple other people who were like, "Oh, you should definitely push the price point and like list it high. She can definitely they had told her like $317, and she was prepared to list at $260. So of course I came in, I'm like, "You can list at $317. And she's like, "Wow, are you sure? That's crazy." And then we did, and then it didn't go anywhere. And then I did not have the like historical data in my head to know when we should drop the price and just say, "Oh, we didn't get enough showings, or we haven't gotten any offers in 2 weeks. We need to drop the price here, and then we need to do it here." And I didn't really know enough to say, well, yeah, if the house was here or there, it could be that. But because it's here, it should really be more like 300. So there was a lot of, I think, self-editing that would have been done if that had been a deal I had later on. But I learned a lot of things from her being my first sale. Because, at first I thought, oh, family makes you do all this crazy stuff. No. It's not just family. It's just sellers in general. Or just like, "Can you go clean my house? Can you go vacuum this? Because I didn't vacuum it."
I can imagine having a listing as one of my first transactions. I don't think I got a listing until I had like 10 buyer side transactions under my belt.
Oh, really?
And at the time, listings were so much more intimidating to me. Now I actually really like them. I think I prefer them.
Oh my gosh, I still hate them.
Really?
Yes, I still don't like them. I still would rather work with a buyer. But then, buyers become sellers too. So then you have to be both. I think it's just more stressful working with sellers because they have to sell and to buy. And I think that creates a lot of stress in their mind, moving the money around, the move out dates, because there's a higher cost, I think, with moving from a home that you're selling into another home that you're buying, because there's just that weird overlap. It's not like you're renting.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the area that I am, you definitely have people that are buying and selling at the same time, but a lot of the cases, and in my listings that I've had up here, they've all been situations where the seller is moving out of state. There's another agent handling that buy side, and all I have to worry about is the sale. But I can see where if you had to deal with a lot of those simultaneous transactions, that would probably be super stressful and difficult.
Yeah, I think actually the only sale I've done has been somebody relocating. The only one I've done that's gone smoothly, she relocated, so then we didn't have to do the buy side.
I mean, I think sellers also just like, not even with selling and buying, I feel like there's always just more pressure to like perform, where like buyers are like, be my friend, which like I'm good at that. I'm really good at that. And
Same.
I think on the sale side, it's like you have the person like looking at you, waiting with you, right? Like waiting for you to sell it.
And it's so hard because I think a lot of sellers who you have right now are sort of a little bit of an older age group, not really our age group. And there's been such a major shift in how real estate's been sold from probably the last time they sold 10 years ago. And so in their minds, you, the agent, are a lot of the forefront of getting people in the door because that's how it used to be. And now with Zillow and the use of the internet for MLS, it's not that anymore. I feel like you're more of a upfront before it gets listed, and then back end on the guidance of making sure all the things get checked off the list that need to be done once you get a contract. But that getting people in the door thing is not really as much your role anymore. It's more of the internet's role.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time understanding that,
right.
I think.
And that the prep is so much more important because the internet now is such a big player. Like you have to prep it so that the internet likes it.
Yes, your photos have to be on point. Your home has to be like decluttered and staged properly. And I think that has now become more of our role as agents, is going in and saying, yeah, you definitely, this furniture is too bulky. You should definitely put some of it in storage. Or, yeah, I got a good photographer. We're not going to iPhone pick this because, we need the wide angle lens to capture the whole space or whatever. And I think that's now more what our job is. And I think sellers of an older generation have a little bit harder time understanding that's where our jobs lie now versus getting people in the door to look at the house.
Right.
What was the biggest thing you learned your rookie year?
Ask everyone more questions. Why do you think it should be listed at $317? What do you think the price point on your house should be? What am I doing right now with this? Ask myself more questions, ask them more questions, ask your broker more questions. I think I did a lot of assuming or I didn't want to look dumb by asking questions. So then I just didn't. So then you look dumb because you never asked. So ask more questions. Now I don't care. I'll ask you 50. I like come in with a list of 50 questions that I need to ask you.
I love that you just said that. You have no idea, because I had that same mindset that the less questions I asked, the more knowledgeable I was going to sound.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which is so not the case.
Correct.
But then you're the blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like that's what your rookie year is just someone has blindly given you their faith and trust, and you're like, thanks, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you're just blindly wandering around.
And then you do one deal and you're like, oh, I've got a hang of this. And then your next deal is completely different.
Oh my gosh. You never know when you get into real estate how different every single transaction is.
Seriously. Oh God. I still feel like every single day I'm like getting punched in the face with a new, like, oh, yep, there we go. Learn that this time.
Well, and you're having a rough couple of months too.
Oh no. It's hard, man. Sometimes I have had deals where I'm like, whew, that was the easiest thing I thought I'd ever do in my life. And then I've had others that I'm like, this is so painful.
Yeah.
And if we can just make it through this.
I recently had a transaction that was so painful. Just everything was painful. And then looking back and like reflecting on it, I realized it was because I didn't prepare my client well.
I feel like that always happens if you are a little self-reflective. You're like, really, it's my fault.
Yeah, it was totally my fault that they pissed me off. Like, it was my fault because I didn't prepare them. And, I let them not take the time to meet with me before we got started on and like looking at houses process. And I'm like, I will never do that again.
Yep, I've done that. I've made that mistake probably too many times where I let them sort of dictate how the process is going to go. And you're like, no, I know that when I do this step first, the whole thing's so much smoother. Why do I let them tell me? I'm the one who knows.
Right.
But I've made that mistake so many times. And then they are always the more difficult of the transactions because they're just not prepared to listen to you because you didn't tell them beforehand.
Yeah, and you didn't establish yourself as like, I am the expert. This is how it's going to go. And of course not. That sounded like a little bit bitchy, but like,
No,
No way. Any guy would have no problem saying that.
Nope.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I've had more of who I've had more of a problem doing it with is friends who are like, hey, do you want to show us this house? And I'm like, sure. But I don't sit them down and have a proper buyer's consultation. I don't sit them down and walk them through the steps. And then they end up being confused and questioning everything that I do. And I'm always like, they're just questioning everything I'm doing because I'm their friend and they don't trust me. No, it's because I didn't sit them down and do a proper buyer's consultation.
Yeah.
Any buyer who I didn't do this with would ask me the same things. So I feel like I tend to be more lenient with the process with friends, but then end up being more frustrated at points, but it's my own fault because I didn't do with them what I do with strangers.
Right.
It's good that you have a formula, though, that if you do that, it will produce beneficial results.
Yeah, I mean, definitely does. I saw you guys did Enneagrams the other week, or listened to it.
Yes.
I retook my Enneagram test because I thought I was a 2. I am not. I am a 6. I am a solid 6.
Oh my gosh. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, because I think I heard you guys talking about that. And then I've also read that women get 2 a lot. But I think it was you, Alex, that was talking about how women get 2 a lot because that's the role that they're like sort of taught to play. So I think that definitely could have played a role in why I got a 2 at first, and then I did it again and got a 6. So 6s are like worst case scenario people, which is definitely how I like to prep my clients during initial contract, during inspections, during final walkthrough. I go, okay, this is the worst thing that could happen. So if this happens, we're going to do this. If that doesn't happen, we're golden and we can do this other thing. Because that's just how my brain works. I have to have worst case scenario.
Just hearing you say the words worst case scenario makes me anxious.
Oh, no.
I'm like, let's not even talk about it. Let's just brush it under the rug and this whole thing's going to be amazing and let's talk about the great house you're going to get.
Yeah, I so wish that was my personality. Like, I really do. My husband, that is him. He's like bubbly and like everything's going to be great. It'll be fine. I don't know why you're worried about it. And I'm like, because I need to be prepared. I need to know that if this plane crashes that I have whatever, the breathing mask and like the thing to put on. And if I don't, how will I survive in the water? If your plane has crashed in some water, you're probably dead and it probably doesn't matter. But I need to know, if I am alive, how will I survive? And he's just like, well, we're going to get to where we're going. The plane's not going to crash. We're fine.
Is he a 7? Is he a 7?
I think he's a 5. He won't fully take the test because he likes to tell me that they're not real, which I think is incorrect. So he hasn't taken it, but as far as he's gotten to be a 5, which is interesting. He's like positive and like loyalist, but I think it's interesting. I started writing sort of a blog post about how I think you should think more about what your agent's personality type is before you select them as your agent, because I think those things really can be helpful. If somebody needs somebody who's really positive, like Alex is, and is like, it's great, everything's gonna be so good, you're gonna own this house, it's gonna be fabulous.
Right.
Then that
we're going to have so many parties. Yeah. We're going to be best friends.
And we're going to be friends. There'll be cookouts. It'll be awesome. But if you're like somebody who can't handle the negative aspect once it happens and you prefer to be prepared, then like I might be a better fit for you because I'm going to prepare you for worst case scenario. And, I think it can really help you feel like your transaction has gone a lot smoother if you know the personality types you're working with. And my brokerage actually focuses on that a lot, and how your personality also affects the way that you sell.
So I'm just thinking still on the worst case scenario thing. So because I think sometimes I do the same thing. Like I have some clients that are worry warts, right? Mm-hmm. And so I try to prepare them for worst case scenario, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And when I do that, I feel like sometimes I make it harder for everybody because then they're worrying before the process. So what do you typically say? Like, say you're going to a home inspection. Are you just saying the worst that can happen is, what do you say?
So home inspections, I've set up like an email sequence that people get because I love to provide info. So I say, you're going to the home inspection. The home inspector's job is to find things wrong with your house.
Right.
That is their job. So that to me is saying, this is the worst case scenario, is they're going to find things that are wrong.
Right.
They're not going to come out and be like, this is all hunky-dory and your house is ready to move into. Like, that's not what's going to happen.
Right.
So I don't necessarily say the worst thing they're going to find is foundation issues. I say the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to find things that are wrong.
Right.
They're going to give you a list of, and it depends on which inspector I'm using or which inspector they've selected so that I because I can kind of tell if I've worked with that inspector before, the level of detail.
Okay, so you're giving a really realistic worst case scenario.
Yes.
When I hear worst case scenario, I'm like, okay, the house is going to catch on fire while it's also flooding. There's going to be foundation issues. They're going to find termites everywhere. Just the whole thing.
It's a little more, I try to prepare them for what is actually going to happen. And I will say, because foundation and fungus or foundation and mold are always, or the roof are things buyers always care about. And I say, if there's something wrong with the roof, the inspector will find it. Positive, the inspector will find it. If that happens, we will need to get a roofer, which is why I suggest we do the inspection earlier than later in your inspection period in case we need that additional person to come out. If they do, we'll get quotes from them and then we'll go from there. And then I leave it sort of open to what the result of that could be. A roofer could come out and say, the inspector's silly, everything's perfectly fine, you just need this patch. A roofer could come out and say, the whole thing's about to collapse, you shouldn't buy this. So, I don't know what they're going to say.
Right.
So I sort of do that
okay.
instead. I bring it back a little bit from, it's not the very worst case. It's like a middle of the ground worst case.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
I like that though. You're setting them up for just really realistic expectations.
I mean, I've even started when I do buyers presentations, once they've said, okay, great, you're cool, let's work together. When I'm setting them up in MLS, I will say, you're going to get houses that are going to come to you. You might love them. Do not fall in love with anything. I love emotion and I love the emotion that comes with buying and that it's your home and you're attached to it. Do not fall in love with it until I hand you the keys, because there are so many steps for us to go through. And I don't say that to scare people, but I say it so that if something comes up and there's a lien on the house and you end up not being able to buy it, that your dreams aren't crushed. And so I try to be a little realistic with them that until I hand you these keys, this is not your home. So we are in the process of buying. So just understand that anything could happen between here and the 45-day mark at which I can hand you the keys.
Right.
And also, are you superstitious? Because I would be very superstitious about doing that.
So I am a little superstitious about it, and I usually lean back on the contract rules where I'm like, hey, so we don't actually have permission per the rules that we're allowed to post pictures of the house. So take pictures, share them privately with your family members, but do not post them on social media. It usually holds them off from it, which also helps play into my superstition of please don't post it because you're going to jinx it.
Yeah. Okay. So now I have a question because we're talking about jinxing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some people that post after they get a house under contract, it's pending.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a listing and I post a just listed thing on social media
mm-hmm.
and I get an offer the next day and then it's under contract, do you post it under contract immediately when it goes under contract? I wait usually until closing because I'm so superstitious. But there are people that post the second they get a contract on something.
I don't, and I don't because I do it for two reasons. One, because I'm afraid about jinxing the deal. Also, because I'm going to be embarrassed if I posted it pending and then something happens and it has to go back on the market. So sort of shielding myself from any potential embarrassment.
Right.
So instead, I'll post a picture of me putting out a pending sign.
Yeah.
But I won't say which property it's for.
Yeah.
Because, too, I feel like if somebody reaches out and is like, hey, you posted a really pretty home that was for sale last week. Is it still for sale? That's still an opportunity for me to capture a buyer.
Yeah.
It gives me an opportunity to talk to them. So even if I can go, oh, I'm sorry, that one's actually pending, but I'd love to help you find another one just like it, then opportunity to connect. So jinxing, and from a potential business perspective, I don't do it usually. I know people do though. Definitely are pending in 24 hours, as soon as it goes pending.
I feel like people are just excited to be able to throw that number out there. 24 hours, 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's basically them just saying, hey guys, come see how good I look.
Yeah, but I feel like doing that has also created this really unrealistic expectation, because I definitely have sellers right now that even when I sit down during a selling presentation and say, per the numbers and the data that I've pulled, your house is going to take 55 days to sell. Their expectation is still 2 days because all these agents are out here going, I sold this house in 2 days and I sold this one in 1 day and this one didn't even get to go on the market yet. And now we've all just created a huge headache for ourselves when the market evens out, and it's not like that. I think I sort of just, same way that I tell buyers, it's not yours until you have the keys. I sort of feel the same way for sellers. This is still for sale. even though we've moved it to a pending status, this is still for sale. And even though you can't review a contract on it, if these buyers walk away, it's up for sale again. So we might as well not necessarily advertise that it's under contract, because we may have to go back and look for somebody else.
And for agents too, like, that house is not sold until that money's in your bank account.
My husband likes to get all excited because he's like, "Ooh, sweet, you closed that house," and I'm like, "No, I'm not closed." Or he's like, "Oh, the house is under contract, so you're gonna make how much money?" And I'm like, Don't even start counting 20s over here or anything. It's until we are closed.
Yeah. Appraisal is not back, friend.
I love how quickly our husbands have learned to calculate 3% of anything.
Like that.
So are you from Richmond originally?
I'm not. I'm from Culpeper, which is like an hour and a half from here. Lots of cows, lots of farms. Very little to do.
What brought you out there?
I went to college at VCU, and I just never wanted to leave.
What do you like about living there?
It's a mid-sized city, so a lot of my friends moved to New York right after college, and I went up there, I visited, I was exhausted every time the weekend was over, and I'm sure part of that was from being like 20-something and being out really late every night with your friends, but another part of it was I just hated getting on and off the subway. I hated bumping into people all the time. Like, being in really crowded, tight places makes me sort of panicky. Like, walking through fairgrounds, I'm like speed walking with like my hand in the air so that you can just follow me, because I don't have time for dilly-dallying. And I felt like that's what the city was like, was just living in a constant like fairground. So I liked Richmond because I could still have my car, but things weren't so far away like they were in Culpeper that it took me 20 minutes to get to the grocery store. But also I didn't have to like get a like wheelie grocery cart because I couldn't have a car and I couldn't put my groceries in it, and then I'd have to walk up like 7 flights of stairs to get to my apartment. So it's a good middle ground. And it's funny because when I first came here, I was like, I am transferring as soon as I get to my sophomore year. Richmond is terrible. I hate it.
Really? Why?
18-year-old me was like, I want to go to a huge football school and like walk everywhere. Like, I thought I was going to Virginia Tech and was like, that was gonna be my life. And then I ended up going to a school with no football, where, you know, we can walk to everything and I don't need my car on campus. And then, but you could still have your car, you know, if you move 5 blocks out of campus, you can have your car and park it in a driveway and all that. So I ended up falling in love with just like the easeability and the convenience. And Richmond has a very small town feel. My aunt went to college here too and then never left. And she always said Richmond is the biggest small town you'll ever live in, because you run into the same people all the time, and it's been a really great place to grow a business. And a lot of our friends stayed, which was really helpful. If I'd gone somewhere like tech, everyone moves out of Blacksburg because the only thing there is tech. So then everyone moves away. But in Richmond, tons of our friends stayed. And so it's been really helpful in building my business that people have been around.
I also read somewhere that a lot of millennials are flocking to Richmond because of everything you just stated. It's just like a more affordable, cool city to live in.
Yeah, our art scene is pretty big. We have one of the best art schools, I think, on the East Coast. So our arts program and just arts in general in Richmond is really popular. We have a decent like music scene because we have the Coliseum and stuff, so we get a lot of good artists. We have some nature stuff with the river. We're, you know, a good midpoint between the mountains and the ocean. You're 2 hours from both. I mean, we have a lot of, I think, really attractive attributes as a city that millennials are now finding that's what they want. So I'm happy they're all moving here. Buy houses. Come.
So we haven't really talked to this. This is like a weird segue now.
Segue it up.
So I guess kind of it ties into like your website and tech and that sort of thing. So you have an online program called the Homeschooled Program, which I love that because that is the best name.
Oh, thanks.
Obviously, you need to trademark that.
I'm trying. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I've looked into it.
Yeah. So what is it? Like, what do you mostly teach in it? Is it an email? Is it videos? What is it?
So the Homeschooled Program, I started because even as a home buyer myself, I feel like there was a lot of being dragged through the process. Like, people just dive full into home buying and have no idea what they're supposed to be doing. They have no idea what to expect. And so I feel like that makes the process very unenjoyable once you've picked the house. Like, house hunting is fun, but everything after that I feel like can be very not fun. And I feel like for me, being prepared and knowing what you're getting yourself into will help get rid of those pain points in the buying process. So I wanted to develop something that prepared you for the major milestones of purchasing a home. And I sort of broke that down into 5 milestones. And that was figuring out your lending, working and selecting an agent and working with them, inspecting houses, going through your loan process and your appraisal, and then your closing day. So those I sort of marked as 5 major milestones. And so what it is you get an email series. So you sign up for it, and it technically for 7 days, because you get a welcome email and then an ending email. So for 7 days, you get a major milestone email that says, this is what you can expect during this major milestone. And I start off with lending, because really you can come to me and tell me you want to buy a house all day long. But until I have that piece of paper in my hand or on my computer from a lender that tells me how much you can afford to purchase, I can't really realistically help you, because there's no point in us going to look at a $350,000 house if your budget only allows you to spend $280,000. We can go look at it for fun. Sure, I love that. But at the end of the day, are you going to be super sad that you can't actually buy this like dream kitchen? Probably.
It's always so interesting to me when a buyer comes forth and has a price point that they've never spoken to a lender about before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, do you like this number? How did this number even come to be?
Yeah, they've what I have found is that people either get it from Zillow or they've calculated it based on their rent. And so they said, okay, if I pay $1,000 in rent, then I can afford to pay $12,000 a year times 30 years. And like that, they think that that's the math. And they don't calculate for interest or any of those other things. Or Zillow's like, oh, this is your number you can afford. Yeah, if I have a 20% down payment, which I don't. So I feel like a lot of buyers are sort of confused about what their numbers are. So I always say, you need to go talk to a lender. I'm happy to talk to you first and recommend some people. But the first person you're actually going to need to talk to is a lender. And I'm always surprised when people actually have signed up for the program and go through the steps, and my lenders are going, hey, do you know this person? They said they were recommended by you. And I'm like, no, I haven't talked to anybody with that name. And they're like, well, they said they did the homeschool program and they're your referral. And I was like, oh, sweet. Clients are coming. Yay. I don't know. I sort of created it almost expecting that nobody would ever use it. So, which is obviously not what you really want, but it's sort of what you expect, I think, when you just pull things out of your brain. You're like, I don't know if anyone's ever really going to use that. So it's been pretty cool to see people actually sign up and read it and follow the steps. And they have been my most successful, easiest buyers.
Because you prepared them.
And they're probably the personality type, too, that thrive on having all of that information ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely personality types that aren't going to want to go through that.
Oh, no.
They're just going to be like, oh my gosh, so show me a house as soon as possible.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So that's actually amazing to filter out, or well, filter in the people that are going to take it seriously and the people that are going to be really prepared all along the way.
Yeah. The ideal buyers that I've had have been someone who signed up for the homeschool program, went through the steps, called the lender first, got a pre-approval letter from them, called me, sat down for a buyer's presentation with me, picked out some houses, showed up to the appointment with a binder with all of the houses already printed out that they wanted to look at, with their own score sheets, with their own details pages, and their like cons page. Because I also like provide you with a binder at the end of our transaction that's like, here's a copy of your contract and your inspection report and all this paperwork that like you haven't really been able to keep up with for a while. So they already had one that had all the tabs and had all the stuff filled out. And I was like, oh, yay, I love you. You're my favorite people. And it was easy because they really wanted a house that I said, hey, we're going to have to go over asking. You're probably going to have to give up a little bit of money, saying that you're willing to cover the appraisal up to a certain extent, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they were just like, okay, sounds great. Write it up. We can do that. And they were fully prepared to listen to me, which makes it sound like I need everyone to fully listen to me to be my client, which isn't true. But they trusted that what I was telling them was accurate because they had gone through the education.
Like they weren't like, oh, she wants money out of us. She wants more money.
Yeah. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with money for me. You're not writing me the check.
Right. Well, okay. So then now I want to know the behind the scenes of the homeschool program. It's an automatic email system that if they sign up, it just goes to them for 7 days.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So I set it up in MailChimp. I sort of had a different partner who helped me with each of the milestones because I am not an expert in lending and I'm not an expert in home insurance or any of those things. So I sort of had a partner who helped me write the details on each of those pages. And they're also the people who are featured as preferred partners on my website. So they sit in sort of that preferred partner category because they helped develop the homeschool program. They don't run anything for it. I run it all. But yes, there is an automatic welcome email. And then every day it's triggered to send them the next milestone. Then they get a like follow-up email on day 7 that's just like, hey, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if there are any other additional questions I can answer for you about any of these particular steps. Or if you're ready to get started, hit reply and we'll get connected. And then there's a survey for them to take to gauge like how helpful the survey was or wasn't for them. So, and it's great because MailChimp sort of tells you, and I can see sort of where people drop off in the funnel. So
that's cool.
They start to be like, yeah, I don't need to know about closing dates. I'm not there yet. So most people get through the first 3 emails definitely, and then sort of trickle out. Maybe they save them in their inbox because they're like, oh, overwhelmed. We're not ready to buy.
Right.
See you later. Or, whatever happens to them.
So then in those emails, like there's links to apply now for a loan with your preferred partner. Okay. Cool.
Yep. There's an apply now or connect with the lender. There is a connect with me and get set up on a home search. There is talk to home insurance. There's nothing really for closing day, which is the last one.
Because it's like kind of at that point, they're in the system with you if they're choosing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I say this is, who I would recommend if you want an attorney and a closing company. I give them 2 options. But yeah, so apply now, view it now. And I just spent time doing audio files with my lending partner who helped develop the program. We did audio files. So in case people are like, oh my God, I don't want to read all this text. Because it is a lot of, it's very text heavy because it's a lot of info. So for people who are like, I don't have time for that, but I can definitely like listen to a podcast at work about it. We developed some audio files. So I'm trying to figure out how to get those into the emails, which is more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
So I had a chance to look at your website before sitting down to record this, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I'm just wondering, can you tell us a little bit about how you built your website and what that process looks like for you?
So I initially didn't really think necessarily about having a website because every agent that I've seen who's really had a website, it's been more IDX driven so that they can capture leads through letting people look at houses. And that to me felt very forced, and I didn't want to do that. Because it felt like cold leads to me, and I just didn't want to do it that way. I wanted people to want the info. So, and in like a blog style and information is much more me. So I actually started more with the blog and just saying, hey, you can go read like basically free articles and free tips here at the blog. And then I developed the homeschool program, so then I needed somewhere for that to live. And I had developed all these resources, like the moving checklist and the box tracker and just all this other stuff that I had that I wanted to be able to put somewhere. And so the website kind of serves as a resource library, a way to just like meet me and get to know me better because I like doing sort of the warm handshake. I had just a blog with a theme on it, and then I had a friend of mine who ended up turning into a client. He's a web designer and he's redone it, and then I'm actually going through a whole rebrand that I'll probably launch in August.
What makes you want to do a rebrand?
So I sort of started RVA Homes with Jess when I wasn't sure what direction my real estate career was going to take me in. And since then, I've sort of wrapped my brain around more what I want my business to grow and develop into. And I want to bring on a partner by the end of the year. And I just have found that I think it's hard for agents to sell their businesses later. If you develop this really great book of business and these really loyal clients, well, when I'm 65 and I want to retire and I'm tired of working with clients, no one's going to want to buy RVA Homes with Jess because you're not going to want to be Jess. You're Mark or you're Alyssa or you're somebody else. And that's a hard thing, I think, for people to buy into. But if you're a different, sort of more neutral brand, then I think it's easier for you to sell to somebody else. And I think people are more willing to work under that brand. And I guess it's because I sort of picture my business attracting people like me, where I was like, why do I want to keep building somebody else's brand? But if we're building something together, then I think you're a little more likely to be dedicated to it and tout it as your own.
That is so true. I've seen real estate partnerships and teams completely crumble because this person is working so hard under someone else's name and feeling like they're not getting the credit. So honestly, that's just an amazing idea. So good job.
Thank you. I have other like long-term goals for developing the brand into something more than just sales. And so we'll see if any of that ever comes to fruition.
Would you be selling a product or?
So I want to use my marketing skills to help other agents sort of brand and grow and market themselves. I think that's something that's really difficult for a lot of people because you get into sales because you're really good at sales. You get into real estate because you know a lot about new construction. And I think a lot of agents spend a lot of time working in their business and not on their business. And it's really hard to do both. And sometimes your brain doesn't work in a way that allows you to develop a brand that people can feel loyal to, and you instead are spending all your time turning your wheels, continuing to try to attract new clients instead of really honing in on what makes you a different agent than everybody else, what your brand and core truly is. And all of that sounds sort of like big and fancy, I think. But from like a signage and a marketing standpoint, I think people need other alternative options other than going to like your local real estate board office and buying like your standard red and white signs. I think there needs to be something else more exciting for people to look at and sort of set you apart. And it's hard for people to sometimes figure that out. So I want to be able to help other agents separate themselves by providing online options or signage options or even gifting options. It's like, hey, do you want to be able to give every client this like specialty gift from you that's not super cheesy? And so my goal is to eventually do some sort of storefront that has basically semi-custom brands and semi-custom gifts and signs that you can come in and pick up. You know, you want white balloons with houses on them and, you know, blue signs instead of red signs. Like, I want to be able to provide that sort of customization for people that otherwise just really cost you a lot of money, or you just don't have the brain to sort of envision what that looks like. If I'm in a neighborhood where there's 2 other open houses and we're all using the red and white signs, how do I know what sign I'm following? How do I know which house I'm trying to go to? But if they're branded, it's easier for you to follow. Okay, that sign, that's what I'm trying to go to. You know, people can get so lost trying to get to your property because you're at this neighborhood down here, and if you take a left, there's another open house down there. And maybe they were trying to come to your house, but they got confused and they went to the left and no one ever made it to your open house. So anyways, just helping agents kind of combat some of those things.
I want to buy some signs.
Thank you. Oh, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm like, I want some. I'll buy some signs. Because it's one of those things like, okay, I just don't have a second to be like, okay, I want to design the sign that is different. Mm-hmm. And also like, do I have to have the equal housing opportunity thing if it has my name on it and my company name? Like, mm-hmm. Can I get away with not having my company name with like NAR guidelines? I have no freaking idea. And I don't have enough time to look into that. And so I'm giving up.
And so I'm just going to buy the red and white sign because it's done.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to Home Depot and I'm getting that $3 shit. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there are so many things that I'm like, oh, this could be so much better. Like, I hate having to write in a Sharpie on the signs. And I hate that when you change, you know, one seller wanted an open house 1 to 3 and your next seller wants 1 2 to 4. Now I got to go buy a new sign to do, you know,
right.
2 to 4 on instead of 1 to 3.
Right.
And I like that thing right there bugs me.
It's like put a strip of like the dry erase marker stuff on the arrow, mm-hmm. Put that on there. Yeah. Yes, girl.
Give me some like Velcro tabs that I can be like Sunday 2 to 4,
yes.
Saturday 1 to 3. Like, why is that not the way that they're built? So, and I get it, they're like much cheaper if you do it the other way, but I'd rather invest in signs that I can use again and pay more money for them up front than have to run to RER every 5 minutes. So,
would you ever do coaching?
Yeah, so I originally thought about doing coaching. That was the first kind of branching out that I considered doing because I enjoyed putting together the homeschooled program. And I think that might be a level that I would do later on, simply because I think right now I've seen a lot of talk and chatter about how the education category is growing so quickly. I'm afraid I don't have the time to commit to doing it well. And then people are going to be annoyed by so many half-assed educational programs that I didn't want to start doing it unless I felt like I could do it really well. So I think I might start with products because that's something I can do almost more passively because I design them and then sell them. And so right now I think I'm going to spend that focus of hand-holding and nurturing on buyers and sellers, and then step back and be able to do more of a passive role and coach maybe just my own team members, and then eventually branch out into coaching a bigger audience. If I feel like that's something that I'm being asked for or called to do, then I would consider doing that.
That's cool.
Yeah. My husband's always like, really? You're going to do all these things? I'm like, yes, I am. I like to dream real big.
Well, and then he gets to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yes, you will. When I'm taking us on vacation, you will quite enjoy this. So we'll see.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love a strong woman.
Mm-hmm. He's always like, I want you to make more money than me. And I'm like, okay, well, let's not put too much pressure on it. Let's just calm down. So he's funny.
Wes used to always be like, I just want to be a stay-at-home dad.
What?
And now that we have a toddler at home, I'm like, you still want that? And he's like, no, not really.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear you talk more about what it's been like to sort of run your real estate business while having kids or starting a family, because I feel like that can be tricky, especially if you run a business that's sort of, based out of your home.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. Challenging, but doable. I'll tell you one thing that's actually helped that I've been doing recently is taking Fridays off. It's the one day that I don't have childcare for my son and I get to just hang out with him, and it really helps the balance.
I think that's nice. The last couple weeks, my husband has Fridays off. And so I have also been trying to truly take off on Friday. Yeah, and just hang out with him or do projects or do whatever we do, because he works really late nights every other week. So I don't see him during those weeks. And then
what does he do?
He's a pharmacist and he's the pharmacy manager of a Walgreens. So he works until 11:30 on the weeks that he works nights. And I'm asleep. I'm 55 inside, so by the time he gets home at midnight, I'm definitely asleep. So I don't really see him. So I've been trying to take off Fridays and just be like, let's just spend time together. I don't care if we go to the gym or if we do yard work or if we actually go on a date night, but I want to be able to actually sit down and have a conversation. Do you guys follow Emily Lay at all?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
She's gonna go run and get her planner now.
Where is it?
Yes, I forgot you did it. I love it.
Where the hell is it? Oh, there it is.
Sitting right in front of her.
That is my lifeline. That is my lifeline.
I love her because they're doing summer hours. So she's talked about how their team basically just, you work when you can and you get your stuff done. And if you want to do it at the pool or you want to do it from your living room or, whatever, then that's fine. And she just posted pictures of her kids swimming in their pool and stuff, which I think is really, really great. And I really love it. So I'm like, that's my goal in life, is to be able to work summer hours, from the lake or wherever I feel like working them. But it's hard to do in real estate because sometimes you have to be physically present. So
right.
We'll see how that goes.
Rude.
But I just love her as a business owner. She's, I feel like, such a role model for what you hope your business will be. Like, cute little small team.
Yeah.
Is that me? Hi.
Everyone being happy.
All right, guys. I feel like we could continue this conversation forever. But we are currently over an hour, so this is going to be the longest episode ever, and I have approximately 8 minutes to pick up my kid. So let's move into the last segment of the episode, and tell me your most embarrassing story.
Oh my God.
You have to.
God, I have so many embarrassing stories. It's not even funny.
Pick your favorite, or pick the most entertaining one.
I don't think I can tell that story on a podcast. It's going to be played for multiple people because it's just too embarrassing.
We don't have that many listeners.
Well, when you preface it like that, how can we not want to know?
I'll have to tell you that one off the air because it's too much. So recently this year, and I feel like this has probably happened to every realtor, I had taken these clients into a house that we ended up putting an offer on, and we'd done all this stuff. We came back for the inspection. I opened the house. Her parents showed up last minute. Her friends showed up. The renter who was living at the house showed up. So I was very confused by the amount of people and overwhelmed by the amount of people I was now having to wrangle during this inspection period, and like, be cautious about, don't say things in front of the renter because I don't know if he's friends with the owner, and we need to, have these discussions outside, blah, blah, blah. Well, we had to come back a couple of days later to do a roof and a plumbing specialist inspection. We go back, I open the lockbox, the key's not in it. So then I'm calling the agent, where's the key? What did you guys do with the key? Now I can't get in, and now I've arranged all these people to be here and the buyers are here and blah, blah, blah. I'm not being snippy with her, but I'm obviously asking her where it is, like she should know. And she's like, and I've called her 3 times, and now she's probably annoyed with me from my incessant calling. And she finally calls me back and was like, Jessica, you were the last person to open the lockbox and the last person in the house. Therefore, you have the key. And I was like, oh shit, I probably do have the key. Where was it? So then I had to pull up a picture off my Instagram to figure out what outfit I was wearing the day we did the inspection so that I could go home and get it out of my jean jacket, because that's where it was sitting in my jean jacket, hung up in my closet 20 minutes from the house. So then I had to call these people and rearrange for them to come back. I had to call her back and be like, so anyways, that's my embarrassing story from this year. Yeah. Because you never want to be the person who left with the key. And then I'm now calling to tell on myself that I'm the one that left with the key. Like, go me.
Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is play a little game of this or that.
Okay.
All right, Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Flats or heels?
Flat.
Coffee or tea?
I try to like coffee because everyone's like all about the coffee, but I'm more of a tea girl.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, I actually love coffee, but it gives me full-on panic attacks.
Yeah, mine just has to be creamed up. So, I mean, is it even coffee at that point? Like, what's the point?
It's like milk with a splash of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, it has coffee ice cubes. It really is just a glass of milk. Like, there's no point.
That does sound really good.
There's a coffee shop around me that serves it. It's called the Bon Bon, and it actually is pretty good.
Beer or wine?
Ooh, wine.
Wine or liquor?
I think probably still wine, but it's because I can control it better, and I know exactly how much I've had. Liquor is hard.
What's your go-to cocktail?
I like an old-fashioned, so I like a whiskey. Mm-hmm.
We have a real woman here, guys.
Oh, yeah. My husband's really into bourbon, so we like bourbon and gingers or whiskey sours or old fashions.
I'm totally going to interrupt this. I am now Alex because Alex is the one who interrupts this or that usually. My summer drink lately is a whiskey lemonade.
Ooh, that sounds good. My summer drink has been a blackberry basil margarita, which is also real tasty, but I'm going to have to try a whiskey lemonade. That sounds so good.
My summer drink has been...
iced tea.
Iced tea. No, it's been vodka.
Just
vodka.
Well, like vodka with anything that's around.
Yeah, any mixer.
Yeah, tonic water, soda water, in a shot glass. Yes, I still do that.
It's been a long spring. I mean, no one judges you.
Well, sometimes by the time I get the kid to bed, I just want to get there already.
Yeah, I just got to get turned. I get you.
I have 2 hours before I have to be back in bed and ready for him to wake up in the morning.
I love an efficient woman, Alex. It's good.
Farmhouse or mid-century modern?
Farmhouse.
List or buy?
Buy. Buy.
New construction or fixer-upper?
Oh, man, it's a tough one. A new construction that sort of looks like a fixer-upper.
Ooh, so you want like a custom build?
Yeah. Yes. I love a custom build. And I like antiqued, cabinetry, but they're like actually brand new, which my husband thinks is appalling. But I like it.
My sister went through a phase like that where she would buy furniture, paint it white, and then sand it. And her husband was so annoyed every time she'd bring something new home. He'd be like, well, I guess we're going to paint this and sand it.
Yeah. I think your sister and I are the same person.
Target or TJ Maxx?
Target. That one's hard.
What about Target or Amazon?
That is hard. I want to say Target, but that's because I'm tactile. So I like walking through the aisles and like trying things on. I hate going to UPS to return something if Amazon doesn't work out. So probably Target.
Do you actually return things?
Oh yeah, girl.
I don't. I suck at that.
My husband, he'll be like, whatever, I'll just keep it. Or because otherwise you have to pay $5 to send it back. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm a liar. And I'm just like, it didn't work out. It wasn't as described.
I return everything that doesn't work out with me because I like to keep my money where it is.
In my account.
That's right. Oh my goodness. This has been one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Thank you so much for joining us and letting us pick your brain.
Thank you. I was so happy to be on. I was so excited. I couldn't wait.
Yay.
Can we be friends now?
Yeah. You want to come be friends? You can come up on Friday. I'll make you a blackberry margarita. We can all meet. Richmond's halfway for you guys.
Yeah.
To meet in the middle.
Ooh. We should.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. As always, you know where to find us. Catch you next time.